This book drops anymore, and I'll have to buy multiple copies.
I don't even know about this next book. I can't trust my own judgment, and I seldomly say that. The hottest comic books in the world, $77,000 in comic book purchases just took place. Let's jump into it at the list at number 10. Hit the subscribe button. We make this video every single week with Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 50. Spider-Man No More, Wilson Fisk's first appearance, the first appearance of the Kingpin. The 5.5 is up 8%, the 6.0 is up 19%, the 9.0 is up 11%, and the 9.4 just clocked into sale for $11,400. That's up 7%.
We've discussed this book a lot, and we discussed it as something that we hold back because we held back 129, and it's finally started to make moves, and we're seeing that with ASM 50. And I don't want to cheapen it and say it's just because of the TV show. I mean, the market's taken massive hits, and people are finally finding the entry point of where they feel comfortable buying books like this. This is a big key for the Marvel Universe. Now, the show probably adds maybe a little bit of buzz, and we saw it really grab a hold of like Daredevil 131, first appearance of Bullseye. We're seeing massive gains with the first appearance of Muse in Daredevil 11, and of course, the first cover appearance of his in Daredevil 14. With that said, we will be watching Season 1 in March on its release, and simultaneously, they'll be filming Season 2, which is great, because hopefully there won't be a massive overlap of time between these seasons.
Jeff just named so many books there, and if you want to keep track of all of them, especially the ones that starts to spike because of Daredevil Born Again, just download Key Collector Comics. It'll do all the organization for you, and you'll be able to see what books are going to be relevant while you're watching the show. Tom 101 unlocks a free 2-week subscription of the app, but 98% of the app is completely free to catalog your comics, learn about key books and non-key books, and better the hunt. Number 9 on the list? What's this doing here? It's a premiere issue. It's dope, but where has this character been? Submariner issue number 1. Coming out in 1968, and $4,800 worth of money's moved in the last 7 days. Let's jump into the numbers. We have some big ones. The 7.5's up 28%, just like the 8.0. The 9.0's up 6%, and the 9.6 just sold for $26.96. That's up 15%. Submariner has seemingly been put on the back burner. We haven't seen him since Wakanda Forever. And then that got me thinking, there's a lot of characters we haven't seen in the last few years. Like, what's going on with Man-Thing? What's going on with Werewolf by Night? What's going on with Moon Knight? What's going on with Shang-Chi? What's going on with Namor? Where's She-Hulk? Where's America Chavez? Like, these are all characters that did pretty damn well on the screen. Some of these series I really enjoyed, but we are in this, like, weird lapse. There's nothing going on with them seemingly for way too long. And seeing a premiere issue on here tells me that some people have not forgotten about Namor, but also, what's going on with premiere issues? They seem to be popping up on our list more than news is breaking the internet. I'm gonna give away all 3 of these major keys, ASM 252, Secret Wars 8, and ASM 301. Those are newsstands, and all you have to do is join me this Saturday at 10 a.m. on Whatnot. Use the link in my bio to enjoy a $15 credit you can use on your first purchase, and you don't even have to use it in a stream. You can also use it on any other category, as little as $1 start on some of these auctions, toys and magic cards and Pokemon cards, but I'm there for the comics, and you should be too. I stream every week on Whatnot, Saturday mornings for a few hours at the least. Here's just a little taste of the auction. All of these are gonna be $1 start this Saturday at 10 a.m. I want you there. Come say hi. It's a great opportunity for me to be able to interact with the community, chat comics, do crazy deals, and of course, you support the show. Let's get back to the video.
More on premiere issues in a bit, but number 8, Fantastic Four Annual number 6, first appearance of Annihilus. 5 sales for this book at $1,500 over the 12-month average. This is a character that people truly adore, and they cannot wait to see it on the screen.
And this book is actually considered a super key because you get the first appearance of the Cosmic Rod, but more importantly, the first appearance of Reed Richards' son, Franklin Richards. We have a 4.0 up 1%, 6.0 15%, 6.5 17%. The 9.0 sold for $960. That's up 1%.
With rumors since just November of 2024 that we're going to have Franklin Richards coming to the MCU as a baby and growing with the cast. So it's going to be a young child playing this role. In my experience, when a young child comes into film, you're not usually going to get a groundbreaking presentation of the character. So I see this as kind of a long play if you're buying it for that. But we got to understand, this is a double key at least, and potentially a triple key with the introduction of the main weapon that he uses, which is such a manipulation of reality, this rod, that it could play a massive factor. Now, this character Annihilus is also supposed to be in the Nova TV show and potentially rumored to be outside of that show into more of the grand Marvel universe. So if you're buying this key for Franklin, you probably got some time to pick it up. But if you're buying it for Annihilus, you might not have as much time as you think.
Which brings us to number 7 on the list, Marvel Spotlight number 5. Hit the like for Ghost Rider. Hit the like for Johnny Blaze. We have $17,000 in sales in the last 7 days. People specking on the macabre meeting the superhero. We're specking on Ghost Rider right now. We have a 4.0 up 11%, 5.5 sold for $950. You can get a mid-grade copy for under $1,000 for one of the most expensive Bronze Age books of all time. We have an 8.5 up 12%. The 9.0 sold for $4,600. That's up 6%, just like the 9.2 this week, where it sold for $7,200. Whenever we talk Ghost Rider, I like to look at the rumors. I'm hoping for something new to report, but we haven't had any updates since January 2023 that there was a project in development, and many people were banking on there being something happening come Halloween time in 2023. And when that didn't happen, well, the spec moved a year later to 2024, where nothing took place. What are they doing with Ghost Rider? It's hard to believe that we haven't gotten a reprisal of Johnny Blaze in the MCU.
Easily the most anticipated character for me to want to see on the big screen, and probably for most. Now, this book was only, 3 times last year in 2024 on the list, and it's already here. This has to be, again, one of those scenarios where books are hitting that point where people are ready to jump back in and grab a key. You said it's one of the most expensive Bronze Age books ever sold, and it is, because the 9.8 sold for $360,000 last year. That's a massive number for a book in the Bronze Age.
Stay tuned to the end of the video because we're going to be doing something new here. We have a couple other comic books that we're going to input into these numbers, changing it up a little bit, so stay tuned. Number 6 on the list, Amazing Spider-Man 252, the first appearance of the black suit in ASM continuity. We have so many sales of this book trending above the recent 12-month average. The 7.0 is up 11%, going for $130. The 9.6 sold for $410. That's up 13%. And a standard direct 9.8 sold for $1125. That's up 1%. The last direct 9.8 sale, however, clocked in a sale at $870. Now, Spider-Man 4 doesn't come out until 2026. And at this point, because we have to look into all the leaks, all the rumors, it tends to impact the collectible a lot. People start buying when they hear that there may be a villain or a narrative that may be incorporated into a movie. I don't think there's ever been this many leaks or rumors for any Spider-Man movie. There's just so much time between now and then and so much volatility that's taken place that we're seeing a tremendous movement on symbiote keys in general. And we don't even know if Tom Holland's going to don this costume in this movie. But what we do know is that the supply is outdoing the demand. In the last 7 days alone, there's been an increase of 7 9.8s of ASM 252 added to the census. That's a hell of a lot, especially when you look at what's not on the list this week. No Secret Wars 8 again. It's probably because in the last 3 weeks, there's been an increase of 9.8s of 34 copies added to the census. And the last 9.8 registered on GPA was for $390, ladies and gentlemen. Secret Wars 8, 9.8 has officially dropped sub $400.
This book drops anymore, and I'll have to buy multiple copies.
I want to know the community's thoughts about these books because some of these modern keys are seeing such an increase to the census that I'm starting to struggle to even suggest that the prices are good. They seem good now. But you tell me, with number 5 on the list, Amazing Spider-Man 316, the first cover appearance of Venom. The 9.2 direct is up 8%. The 9.4 had 4 copies outsell the recent 12-month average, the highest for 214, up 36%. The 9.6 sold for $238. That was a year high so far this year, up 14%, selling for $238. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've seen an increase of 50 copies added to the census and a total of 15 9.8s. That is more than 198 a day. Last GPA sale on a 9.8, $439. So on one hand, you have a McFarlane cover. Venom is clearly going to be doing something new in the MCU. You have a lot of black suit spec happening. The book seems like it's at a great price. I mean, around the $400 to $500 marker seems well deserved. But how does it feel considering the census count just outdoing itself week over week?
I think this book deserves all the attention it's getting. This is a very important book. First full cover of Venom, a Todd McFarlane cover, and really a great cover, in my opinion, for that early 300 run of Spider-Man. So to see this book outselling Secret Wars 8 is really no surprise to me. That 12-month average on this book is $444, and the last GPA sale was $439. It deserves the respect that it's getting. It's an important book, and I like it.
Join the mystery mail call, comictom.com, one per box. We got Mark Spears Thundercats going out to every single person. I got like under 125 boxes left. Hit the website, join the community, support the show, and let's talk about another premiere issue at the list at number 4 with Iron Man number 1 from 1968. 7 different sales, over $9,000 worth of money's moved. We have a 6.5 up 4%, going for $680. A 7.5 hit $1,000, that's up 10%. The 8.5 sold for $1,700, up 14%. And a 9.4 sold for $45.10, that's up 10%. Now, what's going on? I mean, I know people love premiere issues, and we've been talking about them more and more. Even Submariner making the list this very week. I mean, Iron Man in the comics is pretty damn cool. They're only a few issues in, and we got this like steampunk version of Tony Stark wielding this Iron Man sword. Pretty badass, but I don't think that's what's spiking this premiere issue.
I said I liked that last book, but I love this book, and you're going to get that from me, okay? My money goes to the vintage. It just does, and 316 isn't the vintage yet for me, but we're talking Silver Age, we're talking Bronze Age. Tried and true is where I put my money. I love this book. It's as tried and true as it gets, being the number 1 premiere issue that Marvel put out in the 60s. This is the book to go. It's an unbelievable cover. It's an unbelievable investment, and I love this book long term.
I want to know from the community, seeing books like ASM, 316, Secret Wars 8, 252, like they're cool books, and we may be seeing a good opportunity to grab these for a fair price. But when you can put your money into maybe a lower grade copy of one of these Silver Age books, doesn't it seem a bit safer long term?
Especially when we're getting new floors to these books and things are starting to move for really no apparent reason.
I don't even know about this next book. I can't trust my own judgment, and I seldomly say that.
I agree at 3. Star Wars number 1. Last week I was confused. This week I'm still confused and don't quite know what to do. 8 sales, though, for over $3,500 with a 12-month average for this book in a week.
First appearance of Everyone Who Matters, and we have so many year-high sales. And keep in mind, I know it's January. We only mark it as a year high when there are enough sales to report on. 5, to be precise. 7.5 year high. 240 this week, up 23%. 8.0 year high, 365, up 60%. 8.5 year high, 355, up 30%. 9.0 year high, 375, up 8%. 9.2 year high, 613, up 50%. 9.6 year high, up 3% for $900. What's going on? Skeleton Crew ended its season with some like so-so ratings, like not very good. I can't help but think that the Alkalite set them up for failure, just like The Last Jedi set up Solo for failure. However, people seem to have enjoyed at least watching Skeleton Crew with their kids, just like they enjoyed Solo.
I watched Skeleton Crew, and this is what I am going to deduce. My theory of why we're seeing year-high sales on Star Wars so many weeks in a row now. The 7.5 to 9.6 variation just shows that parents were watching this with their young kids, 9, 8, 7. When you watch this show, it's exciting, it's mystifying. It's like watching The Last Starfighter in the 80s if you were at that age. It's an exciting adventure. You get into it. So now that your kids are into it, you're trying to bring a little bit of that nostalgia that you had as a kid, and you're getting them a Star Wars 1. And that's probably why we're not seeing 9.8s. People aren't jumping into that upper echelon peak that you have to get to. You're just capturing a little bit of something to give them to enjoy with your kid, because that's always the moments that you want as a parent. Now, would I have watched this show with my 16-year-old or 13-year-old? No, I watched this by myself just to give it a chance. I've seen so much failure with Star Wars. I'm on that bandwagon. But I thought, hey, here's something completely different. Maybe it'll be good. For me, by myself, I didn't enjoy it.
I do enjoy that assessment, especially when you consider no 9.8s to report on this week, because they haven't been selling more than the 12-month average. And we were looking at $3,000 as a, is it really worth that much? Should we be waiting a little bit? Well, in the last 7 days, there's been 5 new 9.8s added to the census, which just marked the lowest 9.8 sale in the last 12 months, 2,500. So at this point, I gotta believe that this book is not worth $3,000.
In at number 2 is a book on its way to have 31,000 graded copies on the census, with 12 new 9.8s alone this week. Amazing Spider-Man number 300. 10 sales above the 12-month average for almost $6,500 spent.
8.5 up 14%, 9.0 year high up 11%, 9.4 up 15%, 9.6 sold for 9.03 up 3%, and a newsstand 9.6 up 2%, selling for $15.26. This book is struggling to retain its value, but it's doing a pretty damn good job landing at number 2 this week because the last 9.8 registered sale on GPA was for $31.42. This book has been right around $2,800, if not less, all year long. And I have to believe it's because not all 9.8s are the same. And I've mentioned that before, and I've seen some comments about it. I want to get into this a little bit today because I looked up on eBay. The cheapest 9.8 buy it now option is for $25.49. So why would someone pay $3,100 when they could just go buy it now for $2,500?
The discrepancy in pricing for this book tends to fall on the fact that when these books were produced, a lot of times the blades were dull when they cut the book and they ended up with a rough edge. So a lot of people who are high-end collectors are aware of this. So they look for something that's sharp. They don't have that jaggedness as you see on the photos here from this eBay copy.
Before we get to the number 1 hottest book in the world, Guru, are there any comic books that you want to throw out there based off of this list that you think people should be paying more attention to?
We have read your comments, and we know you guys want more books. So every week we're going to do a +2 of books that we are keeping an eye on that you guys should probably know about. And one of those books for me, because I'm not going to get blinded by this symbiote shroud of just that's all there is. I think ASM 238, the first appearance of Hobgoblin, is a book right now that I'd probably be jumping into before it spikes because Jacob Batalon, all right, we know he's Ned Leeds, and there has to be a future for this character.
I'm going to save my pick after I tell you what number 1 is. The number 1 hottest book in the world, the first appearance of Lobo. And I have only one thing to say. Oof ta ta ta. That's right. Jason Momoa plays bass in a band called Oof ta ta ta. Did you know this, Jeff?
The only ta-ta-ta I knew about was Missy Elliott's rat-ta-ta-ta, rat-ta-ta-ta-ta.
34 sales, over $7,000 worth of money's moved. Check this out. The 9.4, 6 copies outsold the recent 12-month average in the last 7 days. The highest for a 102% increase, going for $200. The 9.6 couldn't even keep up. Highest sold $180 for an increase of 37%. 7 copies outdid the 12-month. The 9.8, highest sold $410, up 36%. 16 copies outsold the recent 12-month average. When a comic ranks on the list, one of the first things I do is I look up news on Google. Like, what's being talked about? Is there anything that could be moving the needle? And I think people just don't know who this character is by and large. Because like IMDb, they released an article this last week, The Lobo's Beginner's Guide. You know, trying to just inform people who this character is and why they should care. Look at this, Screen Rant, doing an entire article about why Lobo's casting is perfect. This is just efforts to introduce the character to the masses, which I think indicates that this could be the calm before the storm.
I foresee many Lobo tattoos in the future for people because this character is going to resonate in such a fashion, I believe, that people's minds are going to be blown as who the hell this character is. Now, we could talk about it all we want. We're going to hit whatever audience we hit. But once it hits that screen, it's going to hit a new echelon, a new level of excitement for people that they didn't even know they could reach with some random-ass stud in the universe out there like Lobo.
23 new copies added to the census in 7 days, 12 of which were graded at a 9.8. And I found it curious that Jason Momoa plays bass in this band. They've been touring since last year, doing like Metallica and Pink Floyd covers. Just like Keanu Reeves, he's in a band called Dog Star. He also plays bass. What's with these like famous actors playing bass?
So what you're saying is Jason Momoa will be the new John Wick.
Exactly. And we alluded to it before. We each had an extra book this list that we want you to pay attention to because we are over here going, this probably could take off. It could be something more to this book. And I want to put Omega Men number 5 as my +2 book. This is the second appearance of Lobo, but first time we ever learn Lobo's name. There are only 30 copies graded at a 9.8. The last one sold prior to the announcement back in November 2024, where it sold for $75. You're going to see this book selling on eBay for $5, for $1, and I bet this is a $100 +9.8 when it inevitably hits the market again.
Comment down below. Let me know what your plus book is. What are you specking on?
And of course, as always,
Geek responsibly.
enough said.